Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. stands at the forefront of Philippine leadership as the country's 17th president, a figure whose name evokes both the shadows of history and the hope of national renewal. Born on September 13, 1957, Marcos Jr. is the scion of two of the country's most recognizable names. His father, Ferdinand Marcos, who ruled the Philippines from 1965 to 1986, and his mother, Imelda Marcos, the former First Lady famous for her opulent lifestyle. His ascent to the highest office in the land is not merely a personal journey, but a reflection of the enduring complexities of Philippine society and politics. The story of Marcos Jr. cannot be separated from the legacy of his family. As a young man, he witnessed the height of his father's power and the eventual collapse of the Marcos regime during the People Power Revolution of 1986. The peaceful uprising led to the family's exile, their names synonymous with martial law and allegations of corruption and human rights abuses. For many, the return of a Marcos to Malacañang Palace decades later seemed unthinkable. Yet, after returning to the Philippines in 1991, Marcos Jr. methodically rebuilt his political career, first as a congressman, then senator, and finally, in 2022, as president. Marcos Jr.'s overwhelming victory in the 2022 presidential election, securing nearly 59% of the vote, signaled a remarkable shift in the nation's political landscape. It was the largest majority since 1981 and reflected a public desire for stability, economic growth, and perhaps a re-examination of the country's historical narrative. For his supporters, Marcos Jr. represents continuity, competence, and the promise of bringing the Philippines to a new era of prosperity. For his critics, his rise rekindles concerns about the dangers of political dynasties and the need to reckon with the past. Since taking office on June 30, 2022, President Marcos has confronted the daunting task of steering the Philippines through the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. His administration has made economic recovery a central pillar, aiming for robust real GDP growth rates of 6.5 to 7.5% and targeting a reduction in poverty to just 9% by 2028. These are ambitious goals, especially given the global economic uncertainties and the persistent structural challenges within the country, such as income inequality, unemployment, and the need for infrastructure improvements. To meet these targets, Marcos has advocated for policies that encourage investment, support small and medium enterprises, and modernize agriculture. His administration has also prioritized digital transformation, recognizing that connectivity and technological innovation are vital in a post-pandemic world. Efforts to improve the healthcare system and ensure food security have also been on his agenda, as the nation seeks to build resilience against future shocks. But Marcos's presidency is not defined by domestic policy alone. On the international stage, he has worked to reposition the Philippines as a key player in Southeast Asia. One of his most significant moves has been to strengthen the country's alliance with the United States, a relationship that had grown uncertain under his predecessor, Rodrigo Duterte. In April 2023, the Philippines hosted the largest joint military exercise with the United States, underscoring a renewed commitment to regional security. A subsequent visit to Washington, D.C. saw Marcos meet with U.S. President Joe Biden, where both leaders pledged to deepen bilateral ties and clarify the scope of the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, particularly in response to rising tensions in the South China Sea. The South China Sea remains one of the thorniest issues in Philippine foreign policy. The strategic waterway, claimed in part by both China and the Philippines, has seen increasing Chinese assertiveness, resulting in frequent confrontations between Chinese and Filipino vessels. Marcos has called for a fiercer response to Chinese aggression, while at the same time emphasizing restraint and the rule of law. His approach seeks to balance the need to defend Philippine sovereignty with the imperative to avoid unnecessary escalation. Yet, the path of leadership is seldom smooth. Domestically, Marcos has faced significant political challenges. The 2025 midterm elections delivered a setback to his administration, prompting him to ask for the resignation of all cabinet secretaries. A dramatic move aimed at realigning his government with public expectations and demonstrating accountability. The shake-up reflects both the volatility of Philippine politics and the president's recognition that public trust is hard-won and easily lost. Complicating matters further is the evolving relationship between Marcos and Vice President Sara Duterte, daughter of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Their alliance, which helped secure victory in 2022, has since been strained by policy disagreements and political rivalry. Tensions escalated with reports of a death threat from Duterte against the Marcos family, deepening the rift between two of the country's most powerful political dynasties. This feud has injected uncertainty into the political landscape, raising questions about the stability of the administration and the direction of future reforms. Despite these challenges, Marcos remains a pivotal figure, tasked with navigating the Philippines through a period of great transition. His presidency is a test of whether the country can move beyond the polarizing legacies of the past and chart a new course toward inclusive development and national unity. To many Filipinos, his leadership is a source of hope. To others, a cause for vigilance. Ultimately, the story of President Marcos is still being written. He leads a nation rich in culture, history, and potential, but also one marked by deep divisions and unresolved tensions. Whether his administration will deliver on its promises of economic revival, social progress, and a stronger global presence remains to be seen. What is clear is that his presidency marks a defining chapter in the ongoing narrative of the Philippines, one that will shape the country's destiny for years to come. In the face of old ghosts and new challenges, the Filipino people watch and wait as the next act in the nation's story unfolds.